Welcome back. This is the second part of my two-part video series where I'm showing you the 21 worst upgrades you can do to your classic car and why they create so many issues. We're on number 12, so let's get right into it. One of the worst upgrades I see is people will go to power brakes, but they'll use a really small brake booster because they don't have a lot of space. You really need to have like an 11-inch booster or a 9-inch booster. The reason people do this is twofold. They sell them on the internet, they look cute, they're small, and they're compact. The problem is unless it's a dual setup here with a double booster combo, it's not gonna hold enough vacuum to pull pressure. So you're gonna have crappy brake pedal, actually gonna wind up probably with worse brakes than you originally set out for. So anytime you can, you're gonna wanna go at least with like one of these 11-inch boosters. This is just a stock GM one, or like you can see I'm doing on my car here. This is from Detroit Speed. You can see it's a full-size booster with a modern master, but make sure you're running a proper size booster. Have enough vacuum. If you don't have enough vacuum, that'll kill you too. You might need a catch can or something if you have a big can. So power booster, do it right or don't do it at all. Another worst upgrade, transmission coolers. Installing them is a good idea. Like most of these, it's not always the product that's the problem, it's the crappy installation. Things need to be installed right to work right. This Mustang is dumping oil out of the transmission cooler when it runs. So we're gonna have to take it apart and fix it. Here's a good example of what people do wrong. You get a nice metal line the whole way up, and then you're gonna have to put rubber clips on it. Why do I wanna have a nice factory metal line and then introduce a rubber clip, hose clamps, and some kind of a problem? If you can get a cooler that actually has threaded ports and you can thread right in with a nice fitting, that's the way to go. If not, what I recommend is you flare your line, and you can see here, put 2 clamps on it. Tranny fluid is gonna find its way out. So don't fry your transmission by trying to keep it cool. That's not cool. Why do we constantly install these extra tall hoods? We just have a regular size engine in here. It's cute and all, but that could fit underneath a regular hood. You don't need all this. How are you supposed to see over this thing? I mean, you're gonna be driving like this? This is actually a nice car, but this hood is so huge, it just blocks my view. It's not needed, especially with this engine. Hood scoops are also a problem that we often come across. What's so bad about them is that when they're installed improperly, water's gonna pour in onto the engine, into the engine. If you're doing a hood scoop, make sure that it seals nice, make sure that you do good body work, and make sure that it's not too tall that you can actually see while you're driving. Another poor upgrade selection people choose is to do turbos. I understand why people do turbos. They create a lot of power, and oftentimes people do it because they're cheap. But a set of turbos done right is very expensive and ultimately creates a lot of turbo lag. Most guys, if you just want to be able to drive and enjoy your car, go with a supercharger. It's instant boost, it's right there, you don't have all the engine heat, you'll be way happier. Another awful upgrade for a street car is a roll bar. These things are designed to be used on the track, not on the street. If you're going to use it as a chassis stiffener, that's fine, but the problem is a roll bar is designed to be with a helmet. That way, in case of an accident, you don't split your head like a melon when you hit it on the roll bar. Another bad upgrade is to install racing harnesses in your street car. They're designed for racing. They lock you in your seat, which is great, but they completely decrease any mobility. You can't reach your controls. You're just locked down. It's a great idea to run like a 3-point harness, certainly at least a lap belt, right? We do need supplemental safety restraints, but just don't get yourself locked down. It's like a straitjacket when you're stuck in a racing harness on a street. So probably the worst upgrade and hack I see people do to their classic car is to install an aftermarket stereo in the stock dash. I'm all about some tunes, but the problem is you get these single DIN radios in here, which were great in the 90s, 2000s, even now, because you can do a CD player and everything. But the problem is when you're done, you've got this gaping hole in the dash. So what do you do? Unless you leave the radio in there forever, it might look okay, but if you ever want to convert back to stock or have a more traditional radio, you're stuck with a destroyed dash. So this is for a Chevelle. I had to pull it out because it's garbage. So this is a perfect example of a radio that's not cut out. We'll put a stock radio in here, and we're actually going to do like a nav screen and some more modern stuff, but I just don't have the heart to cut that dash. It's sacrilege. So here's another one, Camaro, where they completely cut out where the radio is going to go, so we'll have to weld it all back together. it should look like this. We just took out the 2-knob factory radio here, and you've got a setup for what they call a 2-knob radio, right? So they make some options that'll fit right in here. So instead of cutting out your dash, even on this car, which is pretty modified, you can get an aftermarket 2-knob style radio. This is by Retro Sound. Custom Auto Sound makes them as well, but you can do it where it'll be Bluetooth ready, USB capable. You can actually get really good quality sound out of especially the Retro Sound brand. So think about not hacking your dash. Just get a nice radio that goes in there and you'll never regret it. Buying the right car is the first step to ensuring you get the most out of your classic car, whether you plan to restore it or resto mod it. Get my free classic car purchase inspection checklist and buying guide linked below. Awful upgrade, wheels that are too wide and stick out beyond the fender wells. First off, the truck looks dated. This truck looks like it's from the 90s. Change the rims, get them to tuck under. It'll look way better. Most importantly, if I bounce on this thing, those wheels are gonna come down. The fender's gonna come down and hit the wheel, cut the tire. All bad. Flat tire, ripped fender well. Get those tires in. Again, get the tires to fit underneath the factory wheel well. These tires are underneath, they would be fine. I don't know why we need these floats. I'm gonna have to pop this quarter panel off and change the whole quarter panel just to get rid of this stupid thing. This 67 Vet used to have a really tall hood on it, but we toned it down and put the traditional Stinger big block hood on there. This car is a good example of a car that might actually be able to keep flares. We left them on there as they were well done, as it was a historied race car and we wanted to honor its pedigree. Speaking of flares, I used to have a buddy of mine that would install flares all the time. Now he's made a living removing flares off of these old Corvettes. So think twice before you make a major mod to your car that might be hard to return back to stock. One of the upgrades I see that causes the most problems, so therefore is probably about the worst upgrade, is alarm systems. I just pulled this alarm out of my son's truck yesterday. If you're going to install an alarm, get a quality alarm and do a quality install. The problem you see with most of these alarms is guys just go into the nice wiring and they do something called a T-tap. The T-tap is hideous. It's supposed to cut into the wire and then you can spade onto that. The problem is so often people cut the wire and destroy the wire. So 1 year in, 1 month in, 1 day in, the car won't start. Next problem with alarms, power door lock actuators. This is a cheap Chinese lock actuator. It probably works great in a Honda Civic or a Toyota. Put it in your classic car, hook it up to this rod. It just doesn't have a lot of torque. So make sure if you get an alarm installed, you have it done properly. Otherwise, it's probably going to cause you problems galore. So the purpose of this video is not to bag on doing upgrades. In fact, I make a living souping up and modifying cars. And it's fun to do that, right? We all want to have fun with our car. We all kind of want to make it unique, faster, smoother to drive, more enjoyable, whatever that might be. But just be cognizant about what you're doing. You know, a lot of these mods are going to be hard to get back to stock. They might be trends that are going to not be so cool further down the road. So feel free to upgrade your car and have fun with it. Just make sure you're doing quality upgrades with good parts done right and you'll be happy with it.